The taste of betrayal isn't bitter, as poets often claim. It's metallic, like blood flooding your mouth after a sucker punch you never saw coming. I stood frozen in the doorway of my own bedroom, the room I'd dreamed of returning to for 732 nights spent abroad, as the world I'd built collapsed around me. James. My wife's voice cracked as she clutched the sheets to her chest, her eyes wild with panic. Beside her, equally stunned, was the only person I'd trusted with everything I held dear while expanding my empire overseas, my younger brother. Let me rewind. 2 years ago, I was Alexander Hayes, 35 years old and CEO of Hayes International. I had everything: the corner office overlooking Manhattan, the Hamptons estate, the private jet, and most importantly, Elise, my wife of 6 years, my anchor, my home. When the opportunity arose to personally oversee our Asian expansion, a move that would triple our worth, it seemed like the only choice was to go. It's just 2 years, I'd promised her on our last night together. The memory of her tears soaking through my shirt haunted me during countless sleepless nights abroad. When I come back, we'll start the family we've always wanted. No more delays. She'd nodded against my chest. I'll wait for you. Always. The irony of those words now burned like acid. During those 2 years, I'd built something monumental. 16-hour workdays. Endless negotiations. My net worth had climbed into the billions. I'd sacrificed sleep, health, and precious time, all for the life we would build together upon my return. I hadn't announced my homecoming. After the final contracts were signed 3 days earlier than scheduled, I'd boarded my private jet, imagining the joy on Elise's face when I surprised her. I'd even stopped to buy her favorite lilies, which now lay scattered across the marble foyer where I'd dropped them at the sounds coming from upstairs. How long? The question escaped through my clenched teeth as I gripped the doorframe to remain upright. My brother Daniel scrambled for his clothes, his face drained of color. Alex, this isn't. Don't. My voice echoed through the cavernous bedroom. Don't you dare say this isn't what it looks like. Elise was sobbing now, mascara streaming down her face. The face I'd gazed at through video calls across oceans. The face that had kept me going when everything felt impossible. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered. Something inside me broke at those words, the universal disclaimer of the unfaithful. I laughed, a hollow sound that frightened even me. 2 years. I spoke quietly now, dangerous in my calm. I built an empire for us. I called you every single day despite the time difference. I sent gifts from every country. I turned down advances from countless women because the thought of betraying you made me physically ill. I turned to Daniel. I trusted you to look after her. To be there when I couldn't. It just happened, Alex, Daniel said, now partially dressed. We were both lonely, and it just happened. I stepped into the room, my whole body trembling. Things don't just happen for months on end in my bed. The realization hit me then, this wasn't a one-time mistake. The familiarity between them, the comfortable way they moved in each other's presence, this had been going on for some time. How long? I repeated, my voice deadly quiet. Elise looked at Daniel before answering. That single glance told me everything. 1.5 years, she finally admitted. 18 months. While I was securing our future, they had been betraying me for 18 months. I turned away, unable to look at either of them. On the nightstand sat a photo from our wedding day, Elise in white, me in black, and Daniel standing proudly beside me as my best man. I picked it up, studying it as though it contained some code I'd failed to decipher years ago. You know what the worst part is? I said, still staring at the photo. I called you both yesterday to say I was coming home early. Neither of you answered. Alex, please, Elise started toward me. Don't come near me. My voice was ice. I have spent the last 2 years of my life building something for us, killing myself with work because I believed we had a future. And all that time. I couldn't finish the sentence. The weight of their betrayal was crushing my chest, making it difficult to breathe. Billion-dollar deals hadn't made me sweat, but standing here, I was coming undone. I want both of you out of my house within the hour, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded despite the hurricane inside me. Alex, this is my home too, Elise protested. I turned to her, really looking at her for the first time since I'd entered the room. The woman I'd loved since college. The woman who had apparently been laughing at me behind my back for a year and a half. Not anymore. With those words, I turned and walked out, ignoring their calls. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall, slides of our life together flashing before my eyes. Our first date. The proposal in Paris. Building this house together. All of it tainted now. My phone buzzed, my assistant calling about an urgent matter with our new Tokyo office. The mundanity of it almost made me laugh again. My personal life was in flames, but business waited for no man's tragedy. I answered it, my CEO voice taking over automatically. Hey, speaking. As I discussed the crisis, a strange calm settled over me. I had built an empire from nothing before. Perhaps I could do it again, but this time, with my personal life. One thing was certain, this betrayal would not be the end of me. It would be the beginning of something else entirely. Before I continue, kindly subscribe to this channel. I didn't cry that first night. I didn't drink myself into oblivion either, though God knows I had the means and the motive. Instead, I checked into the presidential suite at the Pierre Hotel I partially owned, and stood at the window for hours, watching Manhattan glitter below me like nothing had changed. But everything had. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Elise. Daniel. My parents wondering why Daniel had called them in distress. My executive team with updates on the Tokyo situation. I silenced them all and ordered room service, a rare steak and a bottle of Macallan 25, neither of which I touched. The food grew cold. The scotch remained sealed. When dawn broke over the city, I was still standing there, my reflection in the glass a stranger to me, hollow-eyed and unshaven, still wearing yesterday's custom suit, now wrinkled from the 14-hour flight I'd endured in my eagerness to come home. Home. What a concept. I showered methodically, ordered a new suit delivered, and called my lawyer. Harrison, I need divorce papers drawn up. Immediately. And I want a full audit of all my holdings, particularly those shared with or accessible to my brother. Alex. Harrison sounded genuinely concerned. In 20 years, he'd never heard me like this. What's happened? I'll brief you in person. 2 hours. Your office. I hung up and called my head of security next. Sure, I need the locks changed at the Hamptons house and the Manhattan apartment. Today. And I need Elise's and Daniel's access to all properties and accounts frozen. Sir, Ms. Hayes will be. I don't care. Do it. By noon, I was sitting across from Harrison, watching him process the bomb I dropped on his orderly legal world. Jesus Christ, Alex, he muttered, removing his glasses to rub his eyes. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't interest me, I replied. Strategy does. I want her to have nothing. The prenup is clear about infidelity. It is, Harrison agreed cautiously. But scorched earth approaches rarely. She's been sleeping with my brother in my bed for 18 months, I cut in. She gets nothing. Harrison studied me for a long moment. We'd been friends since Harvard Law, before I dropped out to start my first company. He'd seen me ruthless in business but never in my personal life. And Daniel, he asked carefully. My jaw tightened. The shares he holds in Hayes International. I want them back. Alex, he's on the board. Those shares were a gift. Legally. I don't care what's legal. I slammed my fist on his mahogany desk, the first crack in my composure. Find a way. For 3 days, I operated on autopilot. I moved through meetings, made decisions, signed documents. At night, I returned to the hotel, ordered food I didn't eat, and tried not to think about them together. On the 4th day, my mother appeared at my office door. You're avoiding my calls, she said simply, her elegant frame silhouetted against the Manhattan skyline behind her. I've been busy. Too busy to tell your mother why you're destroying your family. I looked up sharply. I'm destroying the family? That's rich. She sighed, taking the seat across from me uninvited. At 63, Evelyn Hayes was still a formidable presence, silver-streaked dark hair pulled into a perfect chignon, spine straight as a ruler. Daniel came to us completely broken, she said. He says you've cut him off without hearing his side. A bitter laugh escaped me. His side? Mother, I caught them in my bed. What possible side could justify that? Love, perhaps. The word hit me like a physical blow. I stared at her, speechless for perhaps the first time in my adult life. Love, I repeated finally. You think love justifies what they did? No, she said quietly. But it might explain it. Get out, I whispered, my control slipping dangerously. Instead of leaving, she reached into her purse and placed an envelope on my desk. Elise asked me to give you this. I don't want it. Nevertheless. She stood, smoothing her already perfect skirt. Alexander, I'm not condoning what they did. But I raised you both. I know how alike you are in your intensity, your passion. And I know how lonely that house must have been for her while you were gone. So it's my fault? I asked incredulously. No. But nothing is ever as simple as we want it to be. She paused at the door. Read the letter. After she left, I stared at the envelope for a full hour before finally tearing it open. Alex. There is no excuse for what I've done. I won't insult you by offering one. What happened between Daniel and me began as comfort and became something neither of us expected or sought. That doesn't justify the betrayal, but it is the truth. For the first 6 months you were gone, I was so proud, telling everyone how my husband was changing the world. Then the loneliness set in. Your calls became shorter, less frequent. When you did call, you spoke only of business, acquisitions, expansions, never us. I became a footnote in your grand narrative. Daniel came by to fix the leak in the guest bathroom, the one you promised to address before leaving. He kept coming back, checking on me, bringing dinner when I mentioned I hadn't been eating. He was there, Alex. He was present in all the ways you chose not to be. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not even asking you to understand. But before you burn every bridge, remember that you walked away first. Your body was in Asia, but your heart and mind had already left this marriage long before that. Elise. I crumpled the letter, fury rising in me like a tide. How dare she? How dare she twist this into some failure on my part? Everything I'd done for us. For our future. My phone rang, a Tokyo number. Work, the only thing that made sense anymore. I answered, forcing myself back into the role I knew best. That night, I made a decision. If Elise and Daniel wanted each other so badly, they could have each other, but nothing else. Not my name, not my money, not one piece of the empire I'd built. Let them discover how well love paid the bills. I called Harrison. I want to move up the timeline on everything we discussed, I told him. And I want you to add something to the divorce terms. What's that? If Elise wants to be with Daniel after this, she forfeits everything. Every penny. Every property. Every consideration. Harrison was silent for a moment. Alex, that's likely unenforceable. You can't dictate who she. Try, I said coldly. And Harrison? I want a meeting with the board tomorrow. It's time to address my brother's position in the company. After hanging up, I walked to the window of my hotel suite. Down below, life continued, oblivious to my pain. People rushing home to families, to lovers, to lives uncomplicated by betrayal. A text lit up my phone. Daniel. Please let me explain. This isn't just about Elise. There are things you don't know. I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the block button, when another text came through. It's about Father's will. And what really happened the night he died. My blood ran cold. Some wounds never heal, like the loss of our father 4 years ago. The night that had driven me to work even harder, to prove myself worthy of his legacy. The night that had started me on the path to where I stood now. What could Daniel possibly know that I didn't? Despite myself, I texted back one word. When? Before I continue, kindly subscribe to this channel. We met at midnight on the rooftop bar of the Standard Hotel, neutral ground. The city stretched out beneath us, oblivious to the fracturing of the Hayes dynasty happening 40 floors up. Daniel was already there when I arrived, nursing what looked like scotch, his normally immaculate appearance disheveled. For a fleeting second, I remembered us as boys, him trailing after me, desperate for approval. The memory twisted the knife deeper. You have 5 minutes, I said, remaining standing despite the empty chair across from him. He looked up, and I was shocked by the dark circles under his eyes. Good. Let him suffer. You should sit down for this, Alex. I'll stand. He shook his head. Always the alpha. Even now. He took a long swallow of his drink. Did you ever wonder why Dad changed his will just days before he died? The question caught me off guard. Our father, Richard Hayes, had built the original company from nothing, transforming a small import-export business into a national player before his sudden heart attack 4 years ago. His will had left me controlling interest in the company, with Daniel receiving a smaller but significant stake. What does this have to do with you sleeping with my wife? I demanded. Everything. Daniel set his glass down. Dad was going to leave you nothing. I laughed sharply. That's absurd. I was his successor. His chosen heir. Until he found out about Cynthia. The name hit me like a bullet. Cynthia Wong, the daughter of our biggest Chinese competitor at the time. Our brief, intense affair had ended badly just months before Father died. That was nothing, I dismissed. A fling. A fling that nearly gave Wong Industries our proprietary technology, Daniel countered. She was using you, Alex. Dad found out. My stomach clenched. You're lying. I have the original will in a safety deposit box. Dad changed it after discovering what happened. He was going to cut you out completely, give me control. Daniel's eyes held mine. I convinced him not to. Bullshit. The night he died, he called me over to discuss it again. Said he couldn't trust you with his legacy if you'd risk everything for a pretty face. My mind raced back to that night. I'd been at the office, working late. The call about Father's heart attack had come around 10 p.m. By then, it had been too late. You were the last person to see him alive, I said slowly, pieces clicking together that I'd never examined before. Daniel nodded. I told him he was wrong about you. That despite your indiscretions, you were brilliant. Born for this. I persuaded him to reinstate you as primary heir, with me as your backup. We argued for hours. His voice broke slightly. The stress triggered his heart condition. I finally sank into the chair, my legs suddenly unable to support me. You're saying I'm responsible for his death? No. Daniel leaned forward. I'm saying I saved your legacy, Alex. I protected you when I could have taken everything. Why? The question escaped me before I could stop it. Because you're my brother. And because you were always the better businessman. He laughed humorlessly. The irony is, I never wanted the company. I wanted a normal life. A family. The implication hung in the air between us. So this was what? Payback? You take my wife because I got the company. My voice rose despite the public setting. It wasn't like that. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. After you left, Elise and I started spending time together. She was so lonely, Alex. You have no idea. The call she waited for that never came. The holidays she spent alone. I was building our future. You were building your future, he corrected gently. She wasn't part of the vision anymore, not really. When did you last ask her about her art? About her dreams of opening that gallery? I fell silent. Elise's painting, once her passion, had indeed never factored into my expansion's plans. We didn't plan this, Daniel continued. But I've loved her since college. You knew that. Another shock. What are you talking about? Come on, Alex. I introduced you to. She was in my art history class. I'd been trying to work up the courage to ask her out for months when you visited campus. His smile was sad. You saw her once and that was it. You always did take whatever you wanted. Memories resurfaced, Daniel's strange distance at our engagement party, his too bright smile at the wedding. How had I missed it? So all this time. I stepped aside because she chose you, he said simply. And I accepted that. Until you left her behind like she was just another asset to be managed from afar. Anger flared again. That doesn't justify. No, it doesn't, he agreed. Nothing justifies betraying you. I'll regret that until the day I die. But I'm not sorry for loving her, Alex. And I'm not sorry for being there when you weren't. I stood abruptly, unable to process everything. You expect me to forgive you because of some story about father? A convenient tale I can't verify because he's dead. I don't expect forgiveness. Daniel reached into his jacket and removed an envelope. But I thought you deserved the truth before you destroy us all. Inside is the location of the safety deposit box. The original will is there, along with father's letters detailing his discovery about Cynthia. I stared at the envelope but didn't take it. What do you want, Daniel? Nothing from the company. I'll sign over my shares. His gaze was steady. But leave Elise out of your vendetta. She's suffered enough. You don't get to dictate terms, I said coldly. Not after what you've done. Then why did you come tonight? He challenged. Why indeed? Because despite everything, he was still my brother. The boy who'd followed me everywhere. The man who, if his story was true, had saved my inheritance at the cost of our father's final moments. I could destroy you both, I said, but the words lacked conviction. You could, he agreed. The question is whether you'd be able to look at yourself afterward. I finally took the envelope, though I wasn't sure why. Perhaps just to end this conversation. This changes nothing. As I turned to leave, Daniel called after me. She never stopped loving you, you know. Even when she fell in love with me too. I froze, his words landing like physical blows. The concept that love wasn't finite, that Elise could love us both in different ways, had never occurred to me. In my world, everything was zero-sum. Winners and losers. All or nothing. Without responding, I walked away, the envelope burning in my pocket like a live coal. Back at the hotel, I poured myself that drink at last and stared at the sealed envelope. Opening it meant acknowledging the possibility that everything I believed about my father, my marriage, my brother, myself, might be built on a foundation of half-truths and assumptions. My phone rang. Harrison. Board meeting is set for 9 a.m., he said. Are you sure you want to do this? Once you move against Daniel publicly, there's no going back. The envelope sat before me, challenging everything. Alex? Are you there? I need to think, I said, and hung up. For the first time in my adult life, I had no clear strategy. The enemy wasn't across a negotiation table, he was in my blood. The betrayal wasn't simple, it was entangled with debt and love and history. I opened my laptop and did something I hadn't done in months. I looked at photos of Elise. Her smile. The light in her eyes when she talked about her art. When had that light dimmed? When had I stopped noticing? Then, against my better judgment, I opened her Instagram. Her most recent post stopped my heart. It was one of her paintings, a man standing alone at a window, looking out at a city below. The caption read simply, "What we leave behind." It was me. Even now, she was still painting me. With trembling fingers, I picked up the envelope. Before I continue, kindly subscribe to this channel if you haven't. Dawn found me standing in the lobby of First Republic Bank, the envelope clutched in my hand. I hadn't slept. The safety deposit box key felt impossibly heavy in my pocket. Mr. Hayes, the manager, greeted me, clearly surprised to see someone of my stature without an appointment. "How may we assist you today?" Minutes later, I sat alone in a private room, a metal box on the table before me. My hands hovered over it, hesitating. Once I opened it, there would be no going back. Some truths can't be unlearned. Inside lay exactly what Daniel had promised, the original will and a folder of letters in my father's distinctive handwriting. The will was dated 1 week before his death, and as Daniel had claimed, it named him primary heir to Hayes International, with me receiving only a token 5% share. My throat tightened as I turned to the letters, all addressed to Daniel. Daniel! Confirmation came today about Alexander's involvement with the Wong girl. The security team's report is conclusive. She accessed sensitive information from his personal devices while they were together in Singapore. Whether he was complicit or merely careless hardly matters, the result is the same. He has jeopardized everything I've built. I've instructed Harrison to redraft the will. I cannot leave my life's work in such reckless hands. You've always been the more careful son, if not the more ambitious one. Perhaps that's what the company needs now. Father. My hands trembled as I read letter after letter chronicling my father's disillusionment with me. The final letter was dated the day he died. Daniel. After our talk, I've been reconsidering my decision. You make compelling points about Alexander's business acumen. Perhaps I have been too hasty. While his personal judgment may be questionable, his strategic mind is undeniable. I've scheduled a meeting with Harrison tomorrow to discuss a compromise, something that acknowledges your loyalty while still harnessing Alexander's vision. In the meantime, let us keep this between ourselves. Some wounds between brothers never heal, and I would not be the cause of such a rift. Father. He never made it to that meeting. Instead, he'd argued with Daniel, his heart giving out before the revised will could be executed. The will that ultimately named me primary heir had been the previous version, the one written before he discovered my affair with Cynthia. I sat back, my entire understanding of the past for years shifting beneath me. All this time, I'd thought I was my father's chosen successor. I'd driven myself relentlessly to prove worthy of that faith. But there had been no faith, only Daniel's intervention and the cruel timing of death. My phone buzzed with texts from Harrison. The board meeting was in 1 hour. The meeting where I planned to destroy my brother. Outside the bank, New York bustled around me, indifferent to my crisis. On impulse, I called my driver to take me not to the office, but to the one place I'd been avoiding, our Hamptons house. "Sir," my driver questioned when I gave the instruction. "Just drive," I said, my mind racing faster than the car ever could. 90 minutes later, I stood on the beach behind the house, waves crashing against the shore in a rhythm that had once soothed me. The house loomed behind me, the house where I'd found them. I'd half expected to find them still there, but the place was empty, the silence accusatory. I called Harrison. "Postpone the board meeting." "Alex? Everyone's already gathering. What's going on?" I said postpone it. I snapped, then immediately regretted my tone. Something's come up. Family matter. I need time. Inside the house, evidence of Elise was everywhere, her books, her favorite throw blanket, the scent of her perfume lingering in the air. In my home office, I found a stack of mail she'd collected for me. Bills. Invitations. Business journals. And a small, wrapped package with my name on it. The paper was worn, as if it had been handled many times. I recognized Elise's handwriting. "For Alex, to open when you return. I miss you every day." Inside was a leather-bound journal. Opening it revealed page after page of letters, one for each day I'd been gone. Some were short, just a line about missing me. Others were pages long, detailing her loneliness, her hopes, her gradually fading optimism about our future. The entry stopped abruptly about 8 months after I'd left. The last one read, "I called 3 times today. Your secretary said you were in meetings. I wonder if she even gives you the messages anymore. Last night, I dreamed you'd forgotten what I looked like. I'm starting to think it wasn't just a dream." I sank into my chair, the weight of what I'd lost, what I'd thrown away, finally hitting me. I had left Elise behind, not physically but emotionally, long before Daniel entered the picture. I had expected her to exist in suspended animation, waiting faithfully while I conquered the world. I had reduced her to a trophy to be displayed upon my triumphant return, not a woman with needs and dreams of her own. My phone rang. The board meeting. I declined the call. Instead, I scrolled to a number I hadn't called in days. Elise. My thumb hovered over her name. What would I even say? The betrayal still cut deep, a wound unlikely to ever fully heal. But now, mixed with my anger was something unexpected, understanding. Not forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever. But understanding. Before I could decide, another call came through. An international number I didn't recognize. Grateful for the interruption, I answered. Hayes. Mr. Hayes. The voice was female, accented. You don't know me, but I worked with your father before his death. I straightened. Who is this? My name is Lin Wei. I was Richard's friend in Beijing. There are things about your father's business in China that you should know. Things that explain why he really changed his will. My blood ran cold. I'm listening. Not over the phone, she insisted. I'm in New York. We need to meet. Why now? It's been for years. Her pause was heavy with implication. Because your brother has contacted me. And because the same people who silenced your father are now watching you. The line went dead. I sat frozen, the journal in one hand, my phone in the other. Beyond the window, storm clouds gathered over the Atlantic, a perfect mirror to the tempest building inside me. If this woman was telling the truth, then the story of my father's death, and by extension, my entire life since, was even more complicated than Daniel had revealed. And if my brother had reached out to her first? I scrolled back to Elise's number and pressed call. Before I continue, kindly subscribe to this channel. The Pierre Hotel bar was nearly empty when Lin Wei walked in. She was elegant, mid-50s, with a graceful bearing that commanded attention despite her petite frame. I recognized her instantly, not from any prior meeting, but from a single photograph I'd once glimpsed in my father's desk drawer. A mystery woman he'd never explained. Thank you for meeting me, Alexander, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. Her English was perfect, with only the slightest hint of Beijing in her consonants. You said my father was silenced, I replied, skipping pleasantries. Explain. She studied me with eyes that missed nothing. You look like him. The same intensity. Ms. Wei. Your father didn't die of natural causes, she interrupted, her voice low. His heart attack was induced. The world seemed to tilt beneath me. That's impossible. The medical examiner was paid to overlook certain toxicology markers. She reached into her purse and slid a flash drive across the table. The proof is here. Along with the real reason your father changed his will. My fingers closed around the drive. Which was? The Wang family wasn't just your business competitor. They were the Chinese military's primary technology contractor. Lin's eyes held mine. When Cynthia seduced you, it wasn't just corporate espionage. It was state-sponsored. The implications crashed over me. My fling with Cynthia had potentially compromised national security interests. My father discovered this. She nodded. Richard had sources within Chinese intelligence. When he confronted Wang about using his son, threats were made. That's when he changed his will, not just because he doubted your judgment, but to protect you. Protect me? By disinheriting me. By removing the target from your back. Lynn leaned forward. If you weren't the heir to Hayes International, you became less valuable as a vulnerability. My mind raced. But he died before executing the new will. Yes. And within days, you were named CEO, just as Wong wanted. An impulsive young man they believed they could manipulate through his ex-lover. I broke things off with Cynthia before father died, I pointed out. But the connection was established. They were patient. Lynn's gaze was steady. Why do you think your Asia expansion was so unexpectedly smooth? Doors mysteriously opened for you, Alexander. Permits that normally take years were granted in weeks. The realization hit me like a physical blow. My meteoric success overseas, had it been orchestrated? Had unseen hands been guiding my business decisions, using my ambition against me? What does Daniel know about this? I asked, my voice barely controlled. Everything, Lynn replied. Richard told him the night he died. Daniel was supposed to warn you after the funeral, get you to walk away from the company until Richard's contacts could neutralize the threat. But he didn't. The pieces clicked into terrible alignment. No. He saw an opportunity and took it. For the company? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Lynn's smile was sad. For the woman. Daniel told me he'd always loved your wife, from before you even met her. With you safely out of the country, focused on an expansion that kept you distracted. He could console the lonely wife. I finished the thought, bile rising in my throat. All while knowing my father was murdered. Your brother made a choice, Lynn said. One he's been trying to undo by contacting me after all these years. He never expected you to come home early. I laughed bitterly. So my entire life for the past 4 years, my father's death, my overseas success, my broken marriage, all of it was built on manipulation and lies. Not all of it, she countered. Your business acumen is real. Your drive. Your vision. They may have opened doors, but you walked through them on your own merit. Cold comfort, I muttered. There's more, Lynn said. The Wong family is aware you're back in New York. They've activated their contingency plan. Which is? Your brother. If he controls Hayes International, they maintain their access. Suddenly, Daniel's offer to give up his shares made perfect sense. It was worthless if the company was about to be compromised. He'd been trying to disentangle himself, perhaps even protect me in his own twisted way. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because Richard was my friend. Because I made him a promise. Her eyes softened. And because sometimes, healing family wounds is more important than vengeance. After Lynn left, I sat alone for a long time. Outside, New York continued its relentless pace, oblivious to how my world had just been shattered and reformed for the second time in a week. I called Elise. Alex. Her voice was guarded, wounded. We need to talk. All three of us. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words. Finally, when? Now. The beach house. Hours later, as the sun set over the Atlantic, we sat on the deck where we'd once planned our future together. Elise, Daniel, and I, 3 points of a broken triangle. I'd laid out everything Lynn had told me. The flash drive's contents had confirmed her story with sickening detail, including surveillance photos of my father taken days before his death. You knew, I said to Daniel, my voice hollow. You knew he was murdered, and you said nothing. I was going to tell you after the funeral, Daniel replied, his face haggard with guilt. But then you immediately announced the Asia expansion, playing right into their hands. When I objected, you accused me of jealousy. So you decided to take my wife instead. The anger still burned, but differently now, tempered by understanding I didn't want to feel. No, Elise interrupted. That's not how it happened, Alex. She looked younger somehow, sitting here in the fading light. Smaller. After you left, I was drowning. Daniel checked on me because he promised you he would. We were both broken people. Both betrayed by you in different ways. I never betrayed either of you, I protested. Didn't you? Daniel asked quietly. You abandoned us both for your ambition. An ambition that was being manipulated by the same people who killed our father. The truth of it silenced me. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Daniel continued. What happened between Elise and me was wrong, regardless of the circumstances. But before you cast us out completely, ask yourself what you really want, Alex. Vengeance? Or family? Both of you lied to me for years, I said, the pain still raw. How can I ever trust either of you again? Elise moved closer, though still keeping a careful distance. Maybe you can't. Maybe none of us can fully trust each other after this. But we're all victims here, Alex. Even you. As darkness fell around us, the three of us sat in silence, each lost in private thoughts. The company I'd built was compromised. My marriage was shattered. My relationship with my brother lay in ruins. Yet beneath the wreckage, I felt something unexpected stirring, not forgiveness, not yet, but possibility. I'm going to dismantle the Asia expansion, I finally said. Cut all ties with Wong Industries and their affiliates. And I'm going to find who's responsible for father's death. Daniel nodded. I'll help you. It's what I should have done for years ago. And us? Elise asked, her voice barely audible above the waves. I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since returning. The woman I'd loved. The woman I'd neglected. The woman who'd found comfort in my brother's arms. I don't know, I answered honestly. I don't know if there is an us anymore. There's always an us, Alex, she said. Even if it's not what it was before. Even if we're not husband and wife. We're still connected. The three of us. As the stars emerged above us, I realized the truth in her words. Some bonds, once formed, can never be truly broken, only transformed. My father's legacy wasn't just the company he'd built, but the complicated web of love, betrayal, and blood that connected the people on this deck. I had returned expecting to find everything exactly as I'd left it. Instead, I discovered that life continues in our absence. People change. Hearts realign. And sometimes, the family we fight to preserve isn't the one we thought we had, but the one we create from the ashes of what came before. So what now? Daniel asked. I looked out at the ocean, vast and unknowable in the darkness. Now we tell the truth. All of it. And we see what remains when there are no more secrets between us. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. But as I sat between the brother who had betrayed me and the wife who had broken my heart, I felt something I hadn't expected to find when I stepped off that plane a week ago. I felt like I was finally coming home. Thank you for following Alexander's emotional journey of betrayal, discovery, and the complicated path toward healing. If this story moved you, please subscribe for more dramatic tales that explore the depths of human relationships and the difficult choices we face in our darkest moments. Share your thoughts in the comments below about what you think the future holds for Alexander, Elise, and Daniel as they navigate their new reality together.